Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of The Message. I am your host, Donatus King. We'll spend this next hour with one purpose in mind, and that one purpose is delivering the message that God is Almighty. Everything that ever was, is now, or ever will be, was made by God. Everything that ever was, is now, ever will be, is a piece of God. Everything that ever happened, is happening right now, or ever will happen, was made to happen by God. God has a master plan for all time and all creation. God is Almighty. The message is brought to you by, is produced by the Society of Knowledge Incorporated. The Society is an interdenominational, religious, spiritual organization. Our members come from various different religious and spiritual backgrounds. We have various different religious and spiritual beliefs. Although we come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs, there's one belief that we share. There's one piece of knowledge that we hold in common, and that's the knowledge that there is a being. By no matter what name we may have been taught to call that being, by no matter what name we may have come to know that being, whether that name be God, Allah, Yahweh, Jesus, Buddha, Jehovah, nature, by no matter what name, we know that there is a being that possesses not some of the power, not most of the power, but all of the power. We know that there is indeed an almighty being. That's the reason we do this show, and the only reason we do this show, to deliver the message that that being that personally I call God, that being is indeed almighty. Today is October the 24th, 2019. I remind you of that fact because tonight, as we are on most Thursdays, we are live. And I remind you of that fact because this show is an open discussion. It's a two-way conversation. For those of you that are watching by Facebook, on Facebook Live, Sister Carolyn, thank you for joining us on Facebook. I invite you to join the discussion. Post your comments on Facebook, and I'll do my best to read your comment over the air. And if you're watching by television, I invite you to use the number that's on your screen, that number 504-483-3336. Call in your comments. If there's something that's going on in your church, your synagogue, your mosque, your masjid, your temple, your place of worship, and you want to let the world know about it, post your comments on Facebook or call in and let the world know about it. If there's something that's going on in your nonprofit organization and you want to let the world know about it, post your comments on Facebook, and I'll do my best to read them out over the air, or call in and let the world know about it. More important than what's going on in your place of worship, more important than what's going on in your nonprofit organization, if there's something that God has done for you in your life, a miracle that God has worked in your life, I invite you and I encourage you to post your testimony on Facebook, call in and share your testimony. You know, the God that I'm here to tell you about is working miracles in the year 2019. You know, there's a pastor that was in the studio just a few minutes ago, right before this show. He finished doing this show. That's Pastor Arrington. And he was speaking about how God can make a way. God definitely can make a way. God every day is making miracles happen. You know, we had that building collapse here in the city of New Orleans a week or so ago, and there were many folks that could have gotten killed. Unfortunately, there were 3 workers that were actually killed, but there were many more that could have been killed. God worked a miracle, brought all of those workers out of harm's way. You know, so God is working miracles, healing folks, healing sicknesses, healing addictions, bringing financial miracles. God is working miracles. So as Pastor Arrington was saying earlier today, if you know God, if you believe in God, if you know that God is still working miracles today, then you can have hope. Have hope. God can indeed make a way. So share your testimony, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Our discussion topic tonight is, and I'll get into that, but our discussion topic tonight is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? Is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to study a little bit about Halloween, things associated with Halloween, the history of Halloween. You know, so your opinion is welcome. Okay? You're not going to be criticized for your opinion. You know, this is an open forum. This is a safe space to exchange ideas, exchange opinions. So, you know, are you going to let your children go trick-or-treating? Is it a sin if you do? Is it superstition if you don't? Okay? the floor is open for that. But before we get into that, we're going to have our regular order of our show. And we're going to get straight into the regular order of our show right now because, as I said, we have a full show tonight. All right. All right, let's go into our next slide. Okay. And we'll have our announcements, then our testimonies, then our religious spiritual study. And as always, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, coming out of the first book, Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. If you hear me say something on this show, don't take it for gospel. Check it out yourself, prove it yourself, do your own research. And is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? That's our topic tonight. Is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? No matter what your opinion, you're not going to be criticized, you're not going to be chastised. We encourage discussion. Is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? After that, we will read our words of inspiration. That'll be coming out of the book of Exodus, starting in chapter 8, verses 19 through 32. And now we have our announcements. What you see on your screen right there, that's our main website. That's www.godisalmighty.org. I invite you to lock that into your web browser, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can visit that website. And all of our regular viewers, there are many of you that have been watching the show regularly, and I invite you, I encourage you to visit our website. On this show, there's an hour. This show lasts an hour, and we try to pack a whole lot into that hour. But throughout the years, we've studied a lot of different subjects. Okay, a lot of different subjects that we've studied. And if you happen to miss a show and miss one of those study sessions, you can always go to our main website, and there's a link on that main website. There's a link to our YouTube page, and we have videos. These programs are recorded, and they're videos, and you go to our YouTube page, and we have videos going back years. So I encourage you and I invite you to visit our main website, and that's www.godisalmighty.org. When you visit that, there's a link to our YouTube page. You just have to click the button, and it'll take you there, and you have many, 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 many videos that you can watch. And I'm so pleased, so blessed to say that this year we're celebrating our 40th year, the 40th anniversary. The Society of Knowledge was incorporated in 1979. So that's 40 years that we have been delivering this message that God is Almighty. And as I say, it's actually more than 40 years, but 40 years ago, we actually received our paperwork from the state. So we are incorporated in the state 40 years, and I thank God for allowing me to be still going strong 40 years later, delivering that message that God is indeed Almighty. Rock of Ages International, Apostle Ronnie Bailey. Apostle Bailey, I saw a message that you posted there earlier that you saw one of the announcements about today's show. I thank you. Apostle Bailey has been a soldier out there working, spreading the word, and you see that's their main website, the Rock of Ages International, www.ronniebailey.com. Lock that into your web browser also. Apostle Bailey and his wife and his ministry, they travel all around the world delivering that word. So lock it in. That's Apostle Ronnie Bailey. New Orleans Peacekeepers here in the New Orleans area, 504-500-1706. I see Sister Veronica. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. Sister Veronica, is celebrating Halloween wrong? Are you going to let your children celebrate Halloween? All right, that's the question. Let me know what you think, Sister Veronica. All right. Call 311 between hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. for free smoke detectors in the New Orleans area. October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Every year we usually have a regular guest that comes on. She is a breast cancer survivor. She's, I think, I don't want to say it wrong, but I know it's over 10 years that she's been a breast cancer survivor. And she comes on each year and shares her testimony with us. She wasn't able to make it this year, but still Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I just want to remind all of our male viewers that men get breast cancer also. Okay, it's not as often as women, but men do get breast cancer. So men, if you notice something a little bit different about your body, and if you haven't been examining your body, examine it. Okay, if you notice a little bit something, don't be too proud to talk to your doctor about it. Okay, that pride can wind up killing you. All right, so Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Please check your vehicle's back seats for babies. A week or so ago, there was in the news another baby died by being left in the back seat. And yes, I know that the weather's starting to cool down and it's going to get colder, but just the same way they can die from heat in the back seat, babies freeze to death when they're left in vehicles. So they can die. They can die not only from the heat, but also from the cold. So check your back seats for babies. 2020 census, jobs. I'm going to keep repeating this because we want to get that information out there that the jobs are available. So you can apply online now, 2020census.gov/jobs, or you can call 1-855-562-2020. Excellent pay, flexible hours, paid training. These are temporary jobs. So if you know somebody, and look, we're getting close to that Christmas time now, right? And I know a whole lot of y'all going to want to go out and buy Christmas presents and all the rest of that. Instead of putting all that on your credit cards and going into debt, go ahead and get you one of these little part-time jobs with the census. And you can work some of those jobs, you can work at home. Okay? You don't have to go out knocking on doors. You can work at home. So give them a call or visit their website. Religious Spiritual Study. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Coming out of First Book of Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 21. Now, I'm going to take a minute before we get into our presentation. I'm going to take a minute and just talk about this. All right, let's see. I want to make sure that we're straight with Facebook. All right. Okay. All right. Understand me, and I'm going to try to be as clear as I can. Most of us have opinions about things, right? Most of us have opinions. And next Thursday is October 31st. And October 31st, around the world, not just here in the United States, but around the world, folks will be celebrating Halloween. Now, Halloween is one of those holidays, and for some people it's a holy day, that's somewhat controversial. There are some religions, some churches that teach and preach that it's wrong to celebrate Halloween. Some churches actually host Halloween events, host Halloween events at the church. So there are folks on different sides of the question. Tonight, we're going to discuss that issue. And before we discuss whether it's right or wrong, we're going to study a little bit about the history of Halloween. Okay? Instead of a lot of rhetoric, we're going to study the history, some facts about it. And again, as I said, prove all things. So if you hear me say something about the history of Halloween and you do your own research and you find out that that's not quite right, then let me know. Let me know so that next week I'll come back and make a correction. Or even this week, if you let me know, post your comment on Facebook, call in and let me know. But that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, Halloween. So I'm going to get my mug, get my face off the screen, and see if we can go into our presentation. All right. Is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? Okay, that's the question. Is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? right, now I have a text, and I'm going to read through the text as we go through this presentation. Halloween is an annual holiday celebrated each year on October 31st, and Halloween 2019 occurs on Thursday, October 31st. It originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. All right, and then you see on your screen now, that's Samhain, and that's how it's pronounced. It looked like it should be pronounced Samhain, but it's actually Samhain. And you see the bonfires and the Celtic people celebrating Samhain. The Celts, who lived 2,000 years ago, mostly in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France, celebrated their New Year on November 1. And for those of you that are watching on TV, you see me, you can see the pointer, this area where the pointer is right now, okay, that's Britain, and then right across from there, Ireland, and up at the top, Scotland, and you come down a little bit lower, and here goes France. So this is the area, when we talk about the Celtic people, that's the area. And down here, we come about Rome, and over here, Greece. So that's, and I like to put these maps up when we talk, because sometimes we talk about things happening in certain parts of the world, and we really don't know where that is. So where we're looking at right now, that's in Europe, okay? That's in Europe, and this white stuff over here on the left of your screen, that's going to be the Atlantic Ocean, and on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, where you see Greece, okay, that white area, that's going to be the Mediterranean Sea. So that's just to give us a little bit of an idea about where the Celtic people were. All right. This day, and when I'm saying this day, okay, so the Celtic people celebrated their New Year on November 1. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest of the beginning of the dark, cold winter. Celts believed that on the night before the New Year, and the night before the New Year, if the New Year is November 1, then the night before the New Year is October 31st. The boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. Okay, Sister Margie, thank you for joining us, Sister Margie, for joining us on Facebook. And I'd like your opinion, Sister Margie, as to whether or not celebrating Halloween is wrong. Okay, on the night of October 31, they celebrated Samhain, okay, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to earth. And now I'm going to quibble a little bit with that statement because I'm of the opinion personally that a lot of this that we're talking about with ghosts and all that kind of stuff, that the Celts really weren't talking about that kind of stuff, but there was really some science behind it. All right, and as we go a little bit further, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Brother John, thank you for joining us on Facebook. I'd like your opinion as to whether or not celebrating Halloween is wrong. All right, to understand what we do know about Samhain, it's important to recognize how the structure of the year's calendar affected the Celts' religious practices. According to some scholars, much of modern pagan practice is based on the wheel of the future, of the year rather, a major determining factor in Celtic worship. And what you see on the screen now, Brother James, thank you for joining us. What you see on the screen now is an image of the wheel of the year. And if you look at the very top, it says Yule, December 20 to 23rd, And if you look right to the immediate left of Yule, you'll see Samhain. And again, it looks like it should be pronounced Samhain, but actually what I've learned, that's pronounced Samhain. And you see that the 1st of November. All right, so that is the Celtic New Year. All right. The Celtic year was divided into two halves, light and dark, which were delineated by two of their 4 annual fire festivals. In between, rituals or ceremonies were celebrated, marking solstices, when night is either the shortest or longest, or equinoxes, when day and night are equal. Samhain, the fire festival that marked the beginning of the dark half of the year, is situated between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. Now, I'm just going to slow down there for a second, because now we see what I was talking about as far as science. Okay? Science. And when you know the solstices and the equinoxes, that's a rudimentary calendar. Okay? You're learning how to tell time. You're learning the different phases of the earth. You're learning when to plant your crops, when to harvest your crops. So even though some folks might have been confused with thinking there's a whole lot of mumbo jumbo and magic and stuff related to this date, in reality, there's a scientific basis for it. Okay? So when we talk about the Druids, who were the Celtic priests, when we talk about them, are we talking about some religious entity, or are we talking about ancient scientists? Okay, the same thing we find in Christianity. Okay, Christianity that has the Yule, but in Christians don't call it the Yule, they call it Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. And we can see that there's some scientific aspects to that, scientific aspects to Easter. Okay, all of these things are the obscured scientific knowledge. In my opinion, yes, they are. All right, just going back and continuing on. May 1st and November 1 are, listen to this, May 1st and November 1 are of little importance to European crop growers, but of great importance to herdsmen. It is at the beginning of summer, May 1, that cattle are driven to the upland summer pastures, and the beginning of winter that they are led back. And here you see cattle, okay, in Europe, in the area where the Celts lived, they would take their cattle up to the pastures in the high ground. Okay? That's in summer, where the snow is melted, the grass is green. They take the cattle up there in the summer. When the winter starts coming, they pull their cattle down because it's colder up at the top of the mountain. Okay? So there was a scientific, a rational basis for keeping track of when it was going to start getting cold and when it was going to start getting hot. All right? So now we see a little bit something about Samhain, and here there was a practical application to that. And to commemorate Samhain, Druids built large sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals. Now, understand something here. This is what it says, and a lot of this stuff is coming off the internet. You can look it up at Wikipedia. There are other websites. You can do your own research. But this is what, on one of these sites that I got this off, they said, look what it said. It said, to commemorate the Samhain, the Druids, and the Druids were Celtic priests, built huge sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes typically consisting of animals' heads and skins and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. Now, see, the interpretation of what they were doing was sacrificing. Okay? But now understand something. Get a little bit of understanding. If the winter is coming and you have all these cows, all this beef, cows been up at the top of the mountain in the green pastures up there, and now the winter is coming, not going to be a whole lot of grass for those cows to eat. So what you going to do? All right? How are you going to live throughout the winter? Just think about this a minute. How are you going to live throughout the winter? Well, you're going to eat those cows. All right? But think about this a little bit. Well, if it's November and you kill a cow in November, after, a week or two, that cow meat is going to get rotten and you're not going to be able to eat it. But wait a minute. Get some understanding about something. Don't you know that you can preserve meat? That you can preserve it and that meat will last for months? Matter of fact, there's a delicacy right now. It's called prosciutto. That's a ham. And when you start reading about some of this stuff and looking at the cooking channel and all that kind of stuff, you know that those hams, they will, what they call cure, they will cure hams, and those hams will last for months. And it's the same thing with meat. You can prepare meat and it will last for months. Guess what? A lot of you nowadays, you go to the 7-Eleven, or to Brothers store or something like that, and you look at the counter, and what do they have there at the counter? Jerky. That's nothing but meat that's been prepared. Some of it's been prepared using chemicals, but some of it no chemicals. Now, how can you preserve meat without using chemicals, but preserve it so that it'll last for months? Well, guess what? One of the ways to do that is by smoking it. Smoking it. Now, I'm not talking about smoking it like you smoke weed or a cigarette. I'm talking about smoking it, curing it, hanging it up, preparing it, hanging it up, and letting that smoke get into it, dry that meat out, and preserve it. So when they're talking about these Celtic people having these bonfires and offering up sacrifices, I'm really of the opinion that what they were doing was they were smoking the meat to prepare it so that they have meat throughout the winter. Nothing, superstitious, no hoodoo, no magic. Something that they learned how to preserve the meat. All right. Let's go on. On May 13th, 609 A.D., Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic Feast of All Martyrs Day was established in the Western Church. Okay, so now we have All Martyrs Day. Okay, all right, Brother James, thank you for joining us on Facebook. So now we were talking about the ancient history of Halloween, how it was related to the Celtic celebration of Samhain, and now we see that the Christians now, hundreds of years later, they have an All Martyrs Day that was celebrated on May 13th, and guess what happened? Now this is in 609, okay? That's Pope Boniface. Then the next thing that happened is that Pope Gregory III later expanded the festival to include all saints as well as martyrs and moved the observance from May 13th to November 1. Okay? So now we see that the Catholic Church, and remember, when we talk about Christianity in the Christian church, we trace the Protestant church, we trace all of that back to the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church traces its roots back to Jesus and to Peter being the first pope. All right? So now we see that the Catholic Church established All Martyrs' Day, and then that expanded to All Saints as well as Martyrs. And the celebration of that was moved from May 13th to November 1, which coincidentally was the same day as Samhain. The All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows or Halloween. And the night let me back up. Make sure we have that right. The All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows or All Hallow Mass. And the night before it, the traditional night of Samhain in the Celtic religion, began to be called All Hallows Eve, and eventually that was shortened to Halloween. In 1000 AD, the church made November 2nd All Souls Day, a day to honor the dead. It is widely believed today that the church was attempting to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related church-sanctioned holiday. All Souls Day was celebrated similarly to Samhain, with big bonfires, parades, and dressing up in costumes as saints and angels. And for those of you that live in the New Orleans area, you know that it's a tradition, especially amongst Catholics, it's a tradition on All Souls Day to visit the cemeteries and clean up the relatives' graves. That's a tradition. So if you go this weekend around a lot of graves, a lot of cemeteries, you're gonna see people out there, painting graves and trimming grass and doing all that kind of stuff, because it's a tradition and it goes back all the way to where that holy day or holiday was first established. All right, and you see on your screen right now some of those graves, and you see their candles and stuff with people, how they celebrate nowadays, how they celebrate that Halloween or All Souls Day, rather. All Souls Day and soul cakes. The American Halloween tradition of trick-or-treating probably dates back to the early All Souls Day parades in England. During the festivities, poor citizens would beg for food, and families would give them pastries called soul cakes in return for their promise to pray for the family's dead relatives. And you see on the screen now, that's a picture of these soul cakes. All right. So now we're seeing some of these things develop, right? The tradition of dressing in costume for Halloween has both European and Celtic roots. Hundreds of years ago, winter was an uncertain and frightening time. Food supplies often ran low, and for the many people afraid of the dark, the short days of winter were full of constant worry. On Halloween, when it was believed that ghosts came back to the earthly world, people thought that they would encounter ghosts if they left their homes. To avoid being recognized by these ghosts, people would wear masks when they left their homes after dark, so that the ghosts would mistake them for fellow spirits. Now, I don't know so much about that, but that's what they say. Today's Halloween ghosts are often depicted as more fearsome and malevolent, and our customs and superstitions are scarier too. We avoid crossing paths with black cats, afraid that they might bring us bad luck. This idea has its roots in the Middle Ages, when many people believed that witches avoided detection by turning themselves into black cats. All right, so now we have a little bit. Thank you, Delana, for joining us on Facebook. Thank you, Brother Alfred, for joining us on Facebook. Thank you, Sister Candace, for joining us on Facebook. Now, we're going to get into a little bit about opinions now. Okay, and the question that was asked is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? Okay, is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? That's the question that was asked. And I did a little research on that, and the research that I did on that, some personal research as far as me personally observing firsthand, and then also some research online. Now, my personal eyewitness research is that there are many churches today in the year 2019 that encourage the celebration of Halloween. There are churches right here in the city of New Orleans, whereas they will have an event that they call trunk or treat. And what that is, they will have their church members come in the church parking lot and open up their trunks, and the trunks will be filled with candy, and the children will go from car to car collecting candy. Okay? So it's still trick-or-treating, and the children have on costumes and all the rest of that. It's still trick-or-treating, but it's a little bit safer. They're not going to strangers' homes. They're going church members' cars. There's some churches, and I was speaking to a minister earlier this evening, and the minister was letting me know that there are some churches that actually sponsor haunted houses. Okay? So those churches, they don't think there's anything wrong with celebrating Halloween. Brother Bishop Wendy Mee, thank you for joining us on Facebook. And Bishop, I really would like if you would share your opinion about Halloween and celebrating Halloween. And what I'm going to read now is something that I downloaded this off the Jehovah Witness website. And I'm going to remind you about something that the Jehovah Witness, they have some views. There's certain things that, views that they have that are different from others. There's some holidays that are celebrated by other Christian churches that the Jehovah Witnesses don't celebrate, and Halloween is one of them. Now, I'm going to just read this. It's not very long, but I'm going to read this. The Bible, and this comes off of the actual Jehovah Witnesses website, okay? The Bible does not mention Halloween. However, both the ancient origins of Halloween and its modern customs show it to be a celebration based on false beliefs about the dead and invisible spirits or demons. The Bible warns there must never be, open quotes, there must never be anyone among you who consults ghosts or spirits or calls up the dead. Deuteronomy 18, verses 10 to 12, the Jerusalem Bible. While some view Halloween as harmless fun, the Bible indicates that the practices associated with it are not. At 1 Corinthians 10 and 20, the Bible says, I do not want you to be participants with demons. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. The origin of Halloween can be traced to this ancient pagan festival, Samhain, celebrated by Celtic people over 2,000 years ago. The Celts believed that the dead could walk among the living at this time. During Samhain, the living could visit with the dead. However, the Bible clearly teaches that the dead are conscious of nothing at all. Ecclesiastes 9 and 5. Thus, they cannot contact the living. Halloween costumes, candy, and trick-or-treat. According to the book Halloween, some of the Celts wore ghoulish costumes so that wandering spirits would mistake them for one of their own and leave them alone. Others offered sweets to the spirits to appease them. In medieval Europe, the Catholic clergy adopted local pagan customs and had their adherents go from house to house wearing costumes and requesting small gifts. The Bible, on the other hand, does not permit merging false religious practices with the worship of God, quoting 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 17. Ghosts, vampires, werewolves, witches, and zombies, these have long been associated with the evil spirit world. The Bible clearly states that we should oppose wicked spirit forces, not celebrate with them. And they're citing the book of Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. And that website is www.jw.org/en/library/magazines truth about Halloween. Okay, so that's the Jehovah Witnesses' position on Halloween. All right, and Brother Waters, Bishop Waters, well, do think that if you teach them what it is not, hide it under the rug as is custom. Sitting in church, you are sitting with demons all the time. Now that we are not children, everything is. Okay, everything is, and I couldn't make out the rest of the comment on Facebook. But again, it's coming down to there's some folks that believe celebrating Christmas is wrong. Okay, there's some folks that believe that celebrating Christmas is wrong, and they base that belief and they base that teaching on the fact that Jesus Christ never said that you should celebrate Christmas. They base that teaching on the fact that Jesus Christ said he didn't want any credit for himself. He was here to gain credit for the one that sent him, for his Father. So a lot of folks that say you shouldn't celebrate Christmas because December 25th is the old pagan holiday. It goes back to the Romans, goes back to the god Mithra, December 25th. So when we start looking at these holidays and looking at these different beliefs and festivals and rituals, sometimes when we start doing our research, it could cause us to have second thoughts about our faith. Okay? Faith, F-A-I-T-H, faith. Okay? Apostle Bailey, thank you for joining us. Messenger Ryan coming out of Lafayette, thank you for joining us. When I said about faith, F-A-I-T-H, if I have my faith, understand what I'm saying. If I have my faith in what a man tells me, and I have my faith in that whatever that man tells me, that's exactly the way it is. And then one day, that man tells me, look, if you want to get to Canal Street, make a left-hand turn at the corner and go 3 blocks, and you're going to get to Canal Street. And one day he tells me that, and I'll go out there, and I make that left-hand turn, and I walk 3 blocks, and I don't get to Canal Street, then that's going to shake my faith. And the next time the man tells me something, I might not believe him. I'm going to be questioning whether what he tells me is true or not. If a man tells me, look, you can depend upon me. If you need anything, you can depend upon me. And I'll give him a call one day, and I say, look, man, I need a ride to work. My car that broke down. I need to get a ride to work. And that man tells me, well, look, bro, I can't help you. Then my faith in that man is going to be shaken. I'm going to be feeling that I can't depend upon him. My faith. Now see what I'm telling you. If your faith, understand what I'm saying. Now, I'm trying to be real clear about this. If your faith is in a book, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Quran, whether it's any book, if that's where your faith is, and you find out that there's something that ain't quite the way it says in that book, then your faith might begin to get a little bit shaky. If your faith, there's something I've been hearing about this Pastor Wilson. I've seen one or two little memes about it. Pastor Wilson, pastor somewhere, and I'm gonna do my research on that. I'm gonna look it up or Google it. Pastor Wilson. That Pastor Wilson was doing some freaky stuff in the church. Okay? If your faith, understand what I'm saying, and why I bring up Pastor Wilson. If your faith is based upon your pastor, your bishop, your imam, your rabbi, if your faith is based on them, and you find out that they've been doing some shaky stuff, some freaky deaky stuff, you find out, then your faith might be shaken. If your faith is based upon some teachings that you've received from when you was a little bitty baby and coming up in the church or coming up in the synagogue or coming up in a mosque, if your faith is based on that, and as you begin to do your own research, as you begin to be exposed to different things, you start finding out that things ain't exactly the way they were presented, then your faith might be shaken. But understand what I'm saying now. If your faith is based upon a direct communication with the Almighty, if your faith is based upon an understanding and knowledge that you are indeed a part of the Almighty, if your faith is based on that, then ain't nothing that you're going to read, nothing that someone's going to tell you, nothing that you're going to hear about that's going to shake that faith. I'm telling you, because that's my faith. You see, I ain't worried about whether it's right or wrong to celebrate Halloween. I ain't worried about that. See, because I know that when them kids come to my house and I'll give them a piece of candy, that I ain't trying to tempt them to be the devil. I know that when Christmas rolls around and I give a Christmas present, I ain't doing that to worship the sun god. My faith is not in that. You see, when you hear me say on this show that God is almighty, that's exactly what I mean, almighty. You see, there's some folks, look, if God wanted everybody to celebrate Halloween, everybody be celebrating Halloween. If God didn't want anybody to celebrate Halloween, nobody would be celebrating Halloween. See, if God didn't want there to be some rain sometime, there would be no rain. If God didn't want sunshine to be here sometime, there would be no sunshine. See, if God didn't want you feeling good sometimes, you would never feel good. If God didn't want you feeling bad sometimes, you would never feel bad. See, my faith is knowing that everything is a part of God's master plan. That's my faith. See, my faith is knowing that God is in control. There's an almighty being that's in control. If I'm supposed to be participating in Halloween, I'm going to be there. See, before I was born, before I was conceived, my life had been written out by the Almighty God. It was ordained. My steps are indeed ordered. I'm not going to go to the left nor to the right. I'm going to go on the path that's been mapped out for me by Almighty God. And me knowing that, that's my faith. So I ain't got to worry about, look what the scripture said. The scripture said, what? Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow? I'm not going to fear it. Because what? God's in control. Thy rod and thy staff shall guide me. Your faith. So these questions, and when we have these discussions, again, it's not to challenge anybody's beliefs. I enjoy having discussions like this. I enjoy that. I enjoy the comments. Bishop, look at that, demonic. I sent it too soon. Every so-called holiday is man-made, and every religion is man-made. The very people that come against everything is the one whom themselves was the first to be put to be out participating in activities. I myself see not one thing wrong with it, no more than giving your money to today's scribes and Pharisees. Uh-oh, Bishop. Today's scribes and Pharisees. All right. Apostle Bailey, amen. God is in control. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You know, that's I'm seeing, you know, we're in some times today. You know, we're in some times today that some things are happening all around the world. And I talk about this, I touch upon this on this show. There's some things that are happening around the world where folks are waking up. And when I say waking up, their eyes are being opened. And they're being opened because that's what time it is. We're in a period where there's some changes that are going on. And some changes that are going on not only on this carnal level, this physical level, but some changes that are going on the spiritual level. And for those of you that know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean when I say about spiritual level. That there is indeed an existence that goes beyond this fleshly body. There's an existence. And that existence in that spiritual realm. And there's some changes that are going on. We see the changes. We see the changes here in this carnal world. Hey, we see, look, the world's being turned upside down. Yeah. We see the political power in the world. Across the globe, America's political stature is being diminished. We see there's a little bitty country like Russia, and Russia, relatively speaking, is a little country. It's no more Soviet Union, but we see the immense influence that Russia is gaining in Syria now. We see people that were bitter enemies, and now we see those allegiances, those partnerships being formed. Power shift globally. Well, there's a shift going on, not only in the carnal world, but in the spiritual world. There are some spiritual forces that have been in control. And now those spiritual forces are not only being challenged, but they're losing their grip. And for those of you that read the Bible, and I'm going to talk to you directly. For those of you that read the Bible, you know what I'm speaking about when the Bible speaks about that there are certain forces that have been ordained to be in power for a certain amount of time. Certain spiritual forces. And now we see that shift coming about. And when I said earlier about folks' eyes being opened, not only these carnal eyes, but those spiritual eyes. But Christ said, those got eyes and can't see, eyes starting to open up. The spiritual eye, getting that spiritual understanding. This is some exciting times. But let me share something with you. what's so exciting for me is that I know that even though there's this shifting going on spiritually with these forces and those forces, that at the end of the day, it's really only one force. Really only one force. But it's exciting. It's exciting to be a player, to be a part of this, to be a player, a part of this on the carnal level as well as the spiritual level. It's exciting. And hopefully, as God has instructed me and made me to be in this space at this time saying these words, hopefully these discussions, this work that I'm doing, delivering that message that God is indeed Almighty. And it's my hope that there's someone that's watching this show now or watch it later on. And those of you that are watching by Facebook, I ask you to please hit that share button. Sister Teresa, thank you for joining us on Facebook. Hit that share button, hit that like button, help spread this word. And the message, all this whole hour, all the talking, all the reading, all the studying, all the discussion, this whole hour with one purpose, and that's delivering the message that God is Almighty. God is in control. No matter how it might seem, no matter if it's going this way, if it's going that way, God is in control. Chill out. Okay? Be cool. Okay, well, listen, be happy. As I close, yes, God is in control. And I'm hoping that message, that knowledge that God is in control, I'm hoping that message brings you and yours peace.